I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what they're doing.
That's the first time I've actually felt Donald Trump be human. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know,
real frustration coming out of him.
Yeah, real frustration coming out of him, coming out of the fact that, hey, look, you know what? He made the decision of bombing Iran, fine, but he didn't take it any further. Unfortunately, with that peace agreement in place, you've got one problem, and a big, massive problem for Donald Trump. You've got the Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel. He was absolutely, that was his icing on the cake, the cherry, where he was leading the front. Now he can't. Now all he's got is Gaza. And you can see by today, people are still dying in Gaza for what he is doing. So I think
and I must say, and from what Hamas are doing, I really must, because it's not, there are two sides in this war.
Yeah, without a doubt. But I do think now that, you know what would really help now is for ground troops to go into Gaza, and
who's ground troops?
Israel. Israel goes through.
Well, they're in there.
The whole, but where are all these Hamas people then?
They're in there. The ground troops.
But where are all these so-called Hamas soldiers and terrorists and everything else? It just seems now that the people of Gaza literally are suffering.
Well, the problem is they blend in with the people of Gaza completely until, of course, they're parading hostages, and then they get their smart uniforms out and their Kalashnikovs and their bandanas. Yeah. That's a fact. But I hear what you're saying. I mean, I was hopeful this morning when I heard about this ceasefire, knowing that ceasefires can be extremely nervous things. I remember it was in a few hours ago. I was thinking to myself, let's just hope that if this shifts things on enough, and if the intervention by America has given it something of a whip hand over Netanyahu on what happens next around Gaza. But again, that involves Hamas's response as much as it involves Israel's response. You've got to hope for the people of Gaza and for the hostages in Gaza. But I can't see how it automatically shifts that situation. But I hope it does.
There's one other important thing to take from today and what Donald Trump said. Hopefully, Putin saw that and can say to himself, do you know what? You can only push that man so far.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I again, when it happened at the weekend, I was thinking to myself, America has huge power power in the world, but power militarily. And I think there came a point where he thought, this is the moment I need to show that we sometimes use it. We will use it, even in the trickiest of situations.
Let's judge him on today. Let's draw that line today, and hopefully he'll have learnt. And moving forward, he will be a good president.
When you say judge him on today, you mean the ceasefire?
The ceasefire
and the bombing at the weekend.
On the bombing at the weekend, showing that he doesn't want war, he does want peace. So let's judge him on today now, moving forward, and let's hope now that he's actually got a little bit more common sense moving forward, and he thinks before he acts. That's very important, and I really do hope that he does now stand with Europe against Putin, because this is just getting a joke.
Oh, so you're keen? You're looking to the NATO summit as much as anything here to see what he says about that.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, but it made it that comment that he came out with. I just thought, do you know what? He's human. He's literally frustrated with these two people that rule these countries. And the people, the people of Israel and and Iraq haven't done this. It's the two leaders that have done this, and you know, I feel sorry for both nations and the people, because at the end of the day, they're just human beings, and they just want to get on in life. That's all they want to do.
Has your view of him changed?
Yeah, it has slightly. My needle has moved slightly, and I think that, like I say, today when he made that comment, and he could have gone and said, right, let's now, to Israel, right, okay, with you, let's show them a bit more force. I'm hoping now that he has a common sense to turn around and say, look, the nuclear part is still in the air. So let's get a team back over. Let's start talking to Iran and see how we can resolve this.
And I think you're right to focus on that. I think in NATO, in the summit in NATO, that when it comes to Iran, that will be the focus. Any support that NATO allies can give to the diplomatic moves prompted by the ceasefire is where there is some hope of it holding. But thank you, David, for your call, David in Kingston. As William Hague, former Foreign Secretary, said on this ceasefire, they often take a while to take. Let's hope that that's the case.
I must say, I love your eternal optimism. It's very refreshing in our very cynical world. But we are not underestimating Donald Trump. Donald Trump is overestimating his own abilities. He's not running some real estate business in New York where you can say to the CEO, close the deal at the end of the day or you're out. Unless he's prepared to put real pressure on Netanyahu, and I mean real pressure with regard to funds and armaments, Netanyahu will continue to ignore him, because Netanyahu is fighting for his very political existence. He needs to be fighting a war somewhere. He can't put any pressure on Iran. Iran long moved its 60% enriched uranium to the periphery of its vast country.
We don't know yet. Nobody knows for sure where that's going.
Well, we saw several trucks, and they weren't there for the scenery. I mean, in my opinion, this is what has happened. I mean, this is what Iranian soldiers said over the weekend on YouTube. It's not the BBC, but that's what they said. So I believe they have moved it. I think that the IAEA won't get anywhere near Iran's nuclear facilities to inspect anything. They will never allow another inspection. I think then, sadly, Iran and Israel are going to be involved in a long war of attrition. They'll slug it out until they both tire of the killing. But it's a dreadful situation, and the only light at the end of the day is that we at last chartered a plane to get our British nationals out, and so far I think 1,000 have registered. British Israelis have registered to come back to the UK or go where they want to go.
Or just British nationals who were in Israel, whether
British,
British,
whoever's got a British passport, please come back to safety. I do not want British people to get caught up in something that was not of their making and to be blown to smithereens. And some of them look to me very elderly, so I'm pleased about that.
I understand what you say about optimism, but we can talk about both sides of this coin, can't we? We can talk about what history tells us about this part of the world, sure, i.e. pessimism, but we can also talk about, the approach to Israel that previous American presidents have taken have been broadly the same, haven't they?
Yeah.
Donald Trump has clearly tried something different here.
Not worked, has it?
Well, again, I actually think it's too soon to say that.
Okay, well, as I say, I appreciate optimism. I'm not going to denigrate people's belief that something will get better. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. But Netanyahu is in a desperate situation. He's got to keep Smotrich and Ben-Gvir happy. He's got to keep them within the coalition. The American people, 60% of them, do not want America to be embroiled and continue fighting alongside Israel.
No, and I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, none of us know. It's all speculation. But what I do know is that Iran is not going to capitulate from being the world's worst country. Trump was talking about, they're proud people, they want to talk, they're this, they're that. And Iran says, no, we want nothing to do with it. They said over the weekend, and again, I know it's not the BBC, it's not LBC, it's not verified, but they said that they are not going to bow under pressure. They are going to continue to enrich uranium, which is their right. And I believe that what I do believe is what North Korea and China is going to actually carry on supplying Iran with the arms it needs. And I believe that North Korea will supply them with a nuclear bomb. The whole thing is an absolute mess, and it was conducted badly. It was conducted with bombast, as Lewis said. It was conducted with threats, and the whole thing has rebounded. It's just disastrous.
I'm looking at a tweet here that is a retweet of something from Truth Social by Donald Trump, purportedly by Donald Trump. Before I read it out, I'm going to check it, actually. I think we should, on Truth Social. But he seems to be saying the ceasefire is back in effect. Maybe he's more of an optimist than even I, Claire.
I just wanted to say, read Trump, that like everybody, I kind of couldn't stand the man. But the thing is, I think that you need a thug to, in a way, deal with other thugs. And I think that underneath all his drivel that he speaks, like a sort of demented person, whirling on and none of us know what he's on about, I think underneath all of that, he's actually quite a pragmatic. I mean, he must have been to be a real estate developer and deal with all of the things that, his dad did and win that business in New York. So I think really underneath it, he's a thuggish person. And I think when he did the effing thing, I think it was the first time he was being authentically Donald Trump. And I think that was great.
In the swearing moment, you mean?
Yes, because I don't like all this piffle. It makes me think of NLP hypnotic kind of trances when he dribbles on so great and we're going to be there. And you're thinking, oh, this is terrible. But it
works for him.
Well, it did work for him. I think it hypnotized everybody. But for the first time, he just is Donald Trump. And I'm fed up of these two thugs, just tit-for-tat bombing and killing people. I'm fed up with it, and I want it to stop.
I'm not sure that Trump's moves on Iran will stop the wider killing that's taking place in the Middle East. I mean, I certainly hope that somehow it does. I'm not quite sure what the route to that would be, but people have been talking about it over the last few days.